Good evening, folks. This is Bill Breeden. Welcome to my Constellation Tour number 40. Tonight we're going to talk about Serpens, the Serpent. Serpens is located along the celestial equator near the ecliptic. So we have our software here, Stellarium, set up for August the 5th at about 10 p.m. And Serpens is best seen from June through August, though it is visible a little before and a little after that. So it's definitely a summertime constellation. So how do we go about finding Serpens? Well, what you want to do is find Ophiuchus, because Ophiuchus and Serpens are intertwined. And Ophiuchus, as we learned in the previous tour, is the serpent bearer or the serpent holder. And the serpent that he's holding is the constellation Serpens. So we're going to start by looking south in the summer months. And just like finding Ophiuchus, you want to look for the three stars here of Scorpius, the scorpion, and follow them upward to this star here. We're going to look up a little bit. And this star here marks the bottom of the coffee pot asterism that I'm outlining here. And that is Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. Now we have Stellarium set up for a suburban sky with a little bit of light pollution. But if you look at Ophiuchus here, he's the serpent bearer, and you follow these three stars here and you continue following them this way and this way, that is the serpent or Serpens. And let me go ahead and turn on the constellation lines. And you'll see that this coffee pot asterism is Ophiuchus. And then this line extending off in this direction, and then again in this direction, represents the serpent or the snake. Now, Serpens is unique among all the constellations in the sky in that I've turned on the boundaries here, and you can see this section here is Ophiuchus, comes all the way down to here. Okay, but this shape here outlines the serpent's tail, and this shape over here, this wider block, represents the serpent's head. So Serpens is the only constellation in the sky that is divided into two sections that do not touch each other. Very unique in that regard. So when you read that an object is located in the constellation Serpens, it can be in this section here, the serpent's head, or it could be in this section over here, the serpent's tail. So these two constellations, or these two sections of Serpens, are actually one constellation. And this one over here, the serpent's head, is known as Serpens caput. And this section over here, the serpent's tail, is known as Serpens cauda. So let me turn on the mythical figures. Let's see. And you can see here, here's the coffee pot asterism of Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. And here is Serpens caput, the head section of Serpens. And over here is Serpens cauda, or the tail section of Serpens. So any object located in the constellation Serpens can either be in Serpens caput or Serpens cauda. And you sort of need to know that in order to know which section of Serpens that you want to search. Very unique in that regard. So going back to a naked eye view, here is the coffee pot asterism of Ophiuchus. And if you follow these three stars in both directions, in this direction off to the right is the serpent's head or serpent's caput, and off to the left, this section here is the serpent's tail or serpens cauda. So let's Serpens is not technically along the ecliptic, but I'm including it along with the ecliptic constellations because it's so intertwined with Ophiuchus, and Ophiuchus is on the ecliptic. And what I've done here, this yellow line here shows the ecliptic. That's the path that the sun follows, along with the moon and planets. And the planets can be above or below the ecliptic at times, depending on the tilt of their orbit in relation to the plane of the ecliptic. So there are times where planets such as Pluto, and yes, I did call it a planet, it's a dwarf planet, is inclined high enough above the ecliptic where it will, on occasion, move from Virgo into Serpens caput here before coming back into Ophiuchus and occasionally even into Serpens cauda. So that's why I'm including Serpens in the constellations here in the ecliptic constellation tours. Okay, we've returned to a naked eye view, and the bright alpha star of Serpens is also known as Unicali. So let's find that. It's also known as Alpha Serpentis. So there it is, Unicali. And through the finder, it just appears to be an ordinary star, but it's listed here as a double star of magnitude 2.6, located 74 light years from Earth. And even through a 9mm eyepiece, I can't seem to split Unicali. Can't say that. I keep wanting to call it Uncanali, but it's Unicali. So let's go back to a naked eye view real quick and look at where Unicali is in the constellation Serpens. It's actually not as hard to find as you think. If you look for the three stars here at the bottom of the coffee pot asterism of Ophiuchus, and you follow them towards Serpens caput over here on the right, this bright star here you find sort of where the snake bends is Unicali or Alpha Serpentis. Let's see if it splits manually. No, I can't get it to split. I didn't have it on my list of double stars. I just saw that it was listed as a double star here in Stellarium. So it must be a really tight double. But I do have some double stars listed in Serpens. The first one I actually have listed is Theta Serpentis. So let's look for that. And it looks like Delta is also on the Serpens caput half of Serpens. And it's listed at magnitude 4, 210 light years from Earth. That one doesn't split easily either. It looks like you'll be able to split it with a high power eyepiece. So Theta Serpentis might be worth a look with your backyard telescope. Okay, let's return to a naked eye view. And I want to point something else out here to you that I probably should have pointed out in the Ophiuchus tour, but I didn't think of it. These three bottom stars here of Ophiuchus, of the coffee pot asterism, they're actually part of the snake, but they're within the boundaries of Ophiuchus. You see that? And you don't get into Serpens kaput until you get past this star out here and past this star here for the Serpens cauda side. And these two stars here that are close together along this line here, this one is Yed posterior, and this one is Yed prior. And amateur astronomers sometimes refer to these two stars as the Yeds because they're both named Yed something, Yed posterior and Yed prior, or Epsilon Ophiuchi and Delta Ophiuchi. So when you're trying to search this area of the sky, particularly along this line of three stars here and heading over here towards Serpens kaput, sometimes you'll hear amateur astronomers refer to as the Yeds, and they're talking about these two stars right here at the bottom of Ophiuchus, heading over towards Serpens kaput. Okay, let's try another double star. Theta Serpentis is a double star. And that looks like it's over in the Serpens cauda side. Yeah, it's way over here at the very edge of the snake's tail. And this is listed as a magnitude 4.6 double star, 132 light years from Earth. And this one is listed as Theta 1. So I wonder if this one right here is Theta 2. Nope. Maybe it's this one. Nope. This one. No, it's not in yet. Maybe it's this little one right here. Nope. Let's zoom in a little further. Maybe we can find it manually here. There we go. That one looks like it's going to split pretty nicely through the eyepiece. Yeah, that does. So that's Theta Serpentis. And let's go back to a naked eye view and see if we can get our bearings on the sky of where this is. It looks like it's really faint. It's 4.9? 4.6. So from a light polluted suburban sky, this one's going to be kind of tough. Looks like you might be able to use Altair as a signpost to get to it. So you have these three stars here at the bottom of Ophiuchus, and you follow them around here to Serpens cauda, and then you kind of have to make a leap over here towards Altair and stop at this magnitude 4.6 stars. That one would be a little tricky to find. But once you do, it does look like it's a nice one. Okay, let's make it dark. Let's look at this constellation from a dark site. And Serpens is one of the prettiest constellations from a dark location. And I'll show you what I do when I'm out at a dark site. Okay, let me go ahead and put the lines back up again. Now here's the coffee pot asterism of Ophiuchus. And here's Serpens kaput over here, the head, and then Serpens cauda over here, the tail. I'll put the boundaries back up. Now what I do is I look for these three stars here at the bottom of the coffee pot and head toward the Yeds, these two stars together, and then keep going. And you can see how the snake wraps around, and you have the snake's head right here. Yeah, that's the snake's head. So this line of stars here is basically the area of the sky where Serpens kaput is. And there's a really pretty globular cluster in that area that we'll get to. And if you follow these three stars the other way, you can kind of see the line for Serpens cauda on this side. That's a little off from what normally I go like this. I just kind of jump over here and then follow this line of stars. And I consider that Serpens cauda. So the next double star on my list is Nu Serpentis. And this is a magnitude 4.3 double star. And through the finder, it doesn't appear to split. This is a nice field of view here. It doesn't even split through my Delight eyepiece. Let's see if it splits manually. No, this is a tough one. But it is on my list of double stars. The next time I'm out, I may have to give it a try with my actual telescope. Okay, let's move on to some deep sky object. There are two Messier objects in Serpens. The first one is, I believe it's in Serpens kaput, and it's M5. So let's do a search for that. And that's actually one I usually find by star hopping. So let's look through the finder. Oh, that looks really nice through the finder. This is a globular cluster with a really bright ring of stars within it. It's called here the Rose Cluster. I've never heard it called that before, but I can see why. And let's go with a lower power eyepiece, a 24mm panoptic. It's going to show you this really nice ring of stars, this bright ring of stars within it. M5 is absolutely stunning. It's a summertime favorite of mine, easily as pretty as any of the globular clusters in Sagittarius. And this one's in Serpens kaput. So let me show you how I star hop to it. So look for the three stars at the bottom of Ophiuchus, and then continue off to the right up into Serpens kaput. And here's Unicali right here. And if you draw a triangle between this Yed star here and Unicali and come down about here, go ahead and turn on my finder rings. And here are the two Yeds right here, and here's Unicali here. If you come down between them, I think this is it right here. Yeah, that's how I do it. So that's M5 there. So what I did was I come off the bottom of Ophiuchus here, look for this Yed star here and Unicali, excuse me, and sort of form a triangle and just come down between these two stars. Here it is right here. I do end up having to pan around a little bit, so I probably need to modify my method a little bit. Let's go back to it. There we go. I spend a lot of time in Serpens, especially Serpens kaput. And probably just because of M5 actually. There is another Messier object within Serpens, and that's M16, or the Eagle Nebula. And if you remember, the Eagle Nebula is where the Pillars of Creation Hubble image is located in the sky. So Serpens hosts one of the most spectacular objects in the sky that Hubble has imaged for us. So let's go ahead and find it. M16. And M16 is in the Serpens cauda side of Serpens. You can see it's right across the border from Scutum. And here's M16, or the Eagle Nebula, through your finder scope. And then through a low power eyepiece, you're probably going to get the best view of it through a medium power eyepiece. This whole thing here is considered the Eagle Nebula, but if you look at this little part right here, you can actually see the pillars of creation. That's this small area here where I'm pointing out. That's where the Hubble image was basically focused on. So let's put a little bit more power on it. Let's go with a 9mm. And you can just see here the suggestion here of the pillars of creation. You're not going to get Hubble views through your backyard telescope, but it is really impressive to see this even through a small telescope. This is located about 7,000 light years from Earth. I'm not really thrilled about the way Stellarium labels Serpens. This label here should be inside this area here, and it should say Serpens caput, and then it also should say Serpens here and say Serpens cauda. But that's okay, we know where it is. So this concludes my tour of the constellation Serpens for tonight. Good night and good seeing.